occupier Kaylin coming to you live from the West Steps, or in front of them, the Iowa State Capitol. This is annual Des Moines Memorial for the homeless, for those who died living on the streets or in shelters during this year, 2016. So they're doing final setup, so it should be starting pretty soon. So there's some music playing at the moment. More people are arriving. So stay tuned and enjoy.
Everyone, can everybody move in kind of tight? Come on in. We're going to be starting here in just a minute.
It's called Oh Holy Night. Oh Holy Night? Yeah, that was called.
Yeah. Everybody kind of move in.
Combine your body heat. I'm gonna raise up.
Everybody moving in. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the 8th Annual Iowa Homeless Memorial. We meet here at the state capitol each year on December 21st, the first day of winter and the longest night of the year, to remember, honor, and prevent. People who died homeless typically have no memorial or funeral service. Often their family and friends don't even know that they're gone. For many, dying homeless means dying lonely and forgotten. That's why it's important for us to remember tonight those who have died homeless and to honor them as fellow human beings. We also meet here to rally against homeless evictions in an effort to help our city get back on the right track and prevent future homeless deaths by working with our nonprofits and faith-based community to implement fundamental solutions. It's our pleasure to announce that once again this year, Joppa has acquired proclamations from Governor Branstad and Mayor County declaring December 21st, 2016 as National Homeless Persons Memorial Day in the state of Iowa and in the city of Des Moines. Thank you for joining us this evening and participating in this special event.
Thank you.
Jeff Overby and Tracy Crowder, Glitter and Rust.
Spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for the break that can make it okay. There's always some reason
Please welcome Joppa Communications Director Melanie Guanci.
Sorry?
Please welcome State Representative Zach Nunn.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being out here tonight. It is well that we're joined by so many members of our community on such a cold and true night as an Iowa winter. I spoke today with Mary Saloon, one of our Sisters of Mercy, and she shared with me 3 lives that I'd like to talk about this evening. To begin, I'd like to speak about Elaine. She's a 37-year-old veteran, a talented artist, and a homeless woman in a wheelchair who lost both of her legs to frostbite. She suffered from severe PTSD with an addiction, and veterans organizations and other community members were working with her to help her break her homelessness. But in early August, she was struck by a drunk driver and died. Jim was an accomplished lawyer before mental illness precipitated his fall into homelessness. But even during his years when he lived in the shelter, he was a tireless advocate, offering his political analysis and mobilization energies in the fight for affordable housing, health care, and other critical services. He was working on voter mobilization among the homeless community last summer when he suddenly passed away. Jerry was a former police officer. He spent years on the streets before finally coming into permanent housing. He was a kind and caring and supportive friend to many, a fellow resident where he lived, and he became a certified peer specialist for others with mental health concerns. His passing last summer sparked much grieving among the community that had come to love him. These are the names of only a few of the thousands Central Iowans and many thousands more homeless across the country. Today in Iowa, tonight, 350 of those thousands will be able to find some form of housing. Another 400 may be able to find a bed at one of Iowa's 11 emergency shelters in the Des Moines metro area. But even in the best case scenario, more than 250 men and women, members of our community, will spend tonight outside, in the woods, under bridges, and seeking shelter. There are certainly no quick fixes to homelessness. It requires long-term vision and sustained effort. But through groups that are here tonight, through members of our community, through organizations like Joppa and all of the missions in our area, through Catholic Charities and Lutheran Services, from our public-private ventures, but most importantly from individuals like you, we are helping our greater community. It's exciting that we are in the presence of a tiny home, a community that can provide for people who make the bare minimum, most under $500 a week. There is nothing in Iowa right now as far as occupancy for anyone who earns under $500 a month. And the glory of the tiny home is that for $200 to $300, a family can live in affordable housing. To close out, as we gather here tonight, there's much reason for hope, and there's much reason for passion. In remembering those who have passed this year, we appreciate the human dimension of what is homelessness, and we are moved and called to action. What a poignant time on this cold Christmas evening that we reflect on people like Elaine, Jim, and Jerry, both in tragedy and in suffering. Their lives, but also the love they shared, can move us and inspire us. So tonight, let us embrace the basic truth of our own humanity with its frailty and its gifts, and work towards a just cause and a compassionate society where the sanctity of life for every human is important. With that, I would like to read Governor Branstad and Lieutenant Governor Reynolds' proclamation on behalf of the state of Iowa. The proclamation reads, whereas the winter poses extreme hardship for the unsheltered and inadequately housed and low-income men and women within the state of Iowa, and whereas the spirit of the holiday season of giving provides an opportunity for affirming and renewal regarding the commitment to ending homelessness, and whereas on December 21st has been designated as National Homeless Persons Memorial Day, the National Coalition, the Homeless, and the National Health Center for the Homeless Council, and is so recognized by the cities nationwide. Whereas Joppa Outreach serves homeless residents living in tents, under bridges, and in vehicles, and in organizations where Iowa Homeless Memorial each year to honor and remember those who have died homeless in Iowa, and to raise awareness about what can be done to prevent future homeless deaths. And whereas this season is of generosity and sharing, citizens of Iowa are encouraged to commit themselves to promoting compassionate concern for all brothers and sisters, especially those who are poor, homeless, and whereas, in remembering those who have died on the streets and the cause of ending homelessness is kept urgent in the state's collective commitment to preventing such deaths in the future. Now that I, for Terry E. Branstad, Governor of the State of Iowa, do hereby proclaim December 21st, 2016 as the National Homeless Persons Memorial Day. Thank you.
Melanie Gwansi.
Good evening. I never thought I would be here. This wasn't my plan. Labeled homeless. It wasn't always this way. I have a story, but no one wants to hear it now. Labeled alone and forgotten. I have a family I love, but that door is closed, and I have lost my key. Labeled unforgivable. So I'm here now, outside and alone. All I hear is, can't stay here. Labeled the problem. Now, evicted from a piece of land, shelters full, and my time is up. Nowhere to turn but to the cold, dark night. The air pierces my heart, and I just want to give up. I lay down in a bed of snow, praying for morning to never come. I've run out of hope. Labeled John Doe, name and story unknown, cause of death, exposure to the elements, homeless in Des Moines. Labels, written by Kelly Overby.
Mayor Frank County.
Wow. Bright lights. Here we are again. This is, I think, the 8th year that we've had this memorial. It's a somber moment for all of us in the city of Des Moines as we think about not only those who passed that have been homeless this past year, and it's one of those moments when we all think about not only what we do today in the cold of winter, but what happens all summer long, all winter long, during floods, storms, and people that need help. And working the city with CISS, the Homeless Coordinating Council, and with many, many others to do what we can to reach out and help those who often are least able to help themselves. But I want everybody to know that the city is continuing to work together with everyone to make sure that we can provide shelter and find shelter for those that truly are looking for it and need it. We have a proclamation that reads as follows: the winter poses extreme hardship for unsheltered, inadequately housed, low-income men, women, and children in Des Moines. The spirit of the holiday season of giving provides the opportunity for affirmation and renewal regarding our commitment to end homelessness. And whereas December 21st has been designated the National Homeless Persons Memorial Day by the National Coalition for the Homeless and the National Healthcare for the Homeless Council. And whereas Joppa Outreach serves homeless residents living in tents, under bridges, and in vehicles, and organizes the Iowa Homeless Memorial each year to honor and remember those who have died homeless in Iowa and raise awareness about what can be done to prevent homeless in the future and their deaths. And whereas in this season of generosity and sharing, citizens of Des Moines are encouraged to commit themselves to promoting compassion and concern for all brothers and sisters, especially those who are poor and homeless. And whereas in remembering those who have died on the streets, the cause of ending homelessness is kept urgent and is the city's and the county's collective commitment to preventing such deaths in the future. Now therefore, I, the Mayor of the City of Des Moines, on behalf of our City Council and our citizens, do hereby proclaim December 21st is National Homeless Persons Memorial Day in recognition of the people who have died homeless in and around Des Moines. And we hereby ask all citizens to take a moment of silence in remembrance and encourage our citizens to support local efforts to eliminate homelessness. Thank you.
Tina Hasse Finley.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I found, was blind, but now I see. Through many, many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that has brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home.
From Central Iowa Shelter and Services, Melissa O'Neill, and Des Moines City Councilman Chris Coleman.
If we can now pause and remember those who have passed away this year. Taj Banks, 36. Taj struggled with addiction and had stayed at Hope Center for Women and Children. And she leaves behind her 4 children, Jayana, Janaya, Nakisha, and DeAndre.
Jack Beeman, 57. Jack preferred to be called Jackie. He had a good sense of humor and liked to laugh and goof around. He was immediately likable and made other good friends at the shelter with staff and clients. He recently had gotten housing at Broadlawn's CAP program.
Reed Benette, 19. Reed committed suicide on April 1st. He had gotten into housing at the YMCA, and he was active with IHYC.
David Blackford. David died in November.
Charlie Brown, 65. Charlie was murdered on May 7th.
Jeff Carrillo. Jeff was 33 and was from California. He worked hard with case management to get the services that he needed. Jeff had lost his eyesight at age 19 and was resilient in learning how to manage life after that.
Herb Chandler, 48. Herb was from Buffalo, New York. He went to Omaha in search of his father, and he found out that his father had passed away and decided to stay in Des Moines as he was passing through on his way back to New York. Herb was very ill and was undergoing chemo treatment. He was often in a lot of pain and died at Mercy Hospital. Herb was very resourceful and had a lot of community support. He once was able to talk someone into giving him a car.
Nice job. Herbert Clark, 37, also known as Herb. He was a veteran and died in November. Herb was quiet and kept a lot of pain inside. He cared deeply about others and wanted to help them, even before he thought about helping himself. He was a client at Central Iowa Shelter and very much a people pleaser. He had a good sense of humor and always tried to do his best and to do the right thing. Herb once helped a staff member at the shelter fix her car when it wouldn't start.
Kim Clark, 54. Kim was a veteran and died in hospice.
Leonard Dawson. He was age 60. He was affectionately known as Pops and was very, very jolly. He was sweet and liked to joke around. He liked to go down to the river and enjoyed fishing. Leonard was found dead in the Des Moines River on May 26th.
William Gangringer, 57. Bill is remembered well for his lively spirit and the love he held for his family. He was married to Karen Hain in 1981. From this union had 3 children, Billy, Ryan, and Betsy, and grandchildren, Grady and Nash. He was also survived by his mother and stepfather, Janet and Robert James, and sister, Susan, Ann, Ellen, Mary, and Tracy, and brother Michael. He died on August 13th.
Mark Hagan. Mark was 61 and he went by Stephen. He was quiet and polite, and he too was a veteran. He was looking into substance abuse treatment when he had a heart attack. He was thankful for the help that he had been given, and he had a lot of nautical tattoos.
Tony Holloway, 54. Tony had a good sense of humor and was very kind and polite. He was a veteran who died after getting into housing and was married to Elizabeth Holloway when he had passed. They took care of each other, and Tony liked to look out for other veterans.
Stephanie Halterman. She was 34. Stephanie was very sweet. She went through a series of transformations and was making a lot of progress. In spite of her physical health issues, Stephanie was always volunteering and liked to help the people around her. She loved being around her family.
Paul Hill, 53. Paul was happy he had been able to travel almost all 50 states over the last 2 years. He had also loved old R&B classics, and especially Michael Jackson.
Shelley Hoyt, 62. Shelley was a very kind, sweet woman. She suffered a stroke and stayed strong through her recovery. She was loved and she was very close to her family. Shelley had a sharp sense of humor and was very, very witty.
Dennis Hutchinson, 59. Dennis had been living in a shed for the last 10 years. He was very close to getting into housing. He did not like to tie his shoes, and Dennis died on April 20th.
Charles Laneman, 82. Charles was a grumpy but sweet old man. He was also a veteran. He went to the veterans home in Marshalltown. Several strangers showed up to his funeral to support him for his service.
Greg McFarland, 51.
He was from Danville, a small town in Illinois, and he would proudly say he was from the town of Dick Van Dyke. He relocated to Des Moines for love over 16 years ago, and Greg enjoyed the Des Moines River, cracking silly jokes, and most recently his newfound home, an apartment on the south side of Des Moines. He stayed in touch with his mom over the years and recently reconnected with his younger brother. His mom sent him several care packages to his new apartment, and Greg was always so overjoyed when a package arrived. He was a hard worker and will be remembered for his infectious smile and dry jokes. Greg died after entering an Anna program, but had homeless and a friend of Joppa for years. Greg died on August 13th.
Alethea Miller, 46. Alethea was a Spitfire, and she was stubborn. She was a mother hen and took a lot of young girls under her wing. She had been staying at Central Iowa Shelter and was recently able to get an apartment. Alethea had a son and husband who cared deeply about her.
Jeff Morrison, 58. Jeff was a joker. He was funny and he was very helpful. He liked to help around the shelter and volunteered to do many tasks.
Sam Naomi. Sam was 56, and he was often very gruff and quiet on the outside if you did not know him very well. However, once you got to know him, you found a very endearing, kind-hearted individual. Sam loved to joke with people, and he had a great sense of humor. He was expert at the use of sarcasm. As a young man, Sam served in the Army. Sam was a hard worker and worked many odd jobs, including laying bricks and working on cars. He especially enjoyed working with his brother. Sam died in September.
Terry Niederkloffer, 56. Terry was a quiet individual. It took him several tries to teach people to spell his last name, but he was pretty patient and polite about it. Terry was also very ill. He lived in the recovery room, and for some time he was on oxygen. Terry had recently found housing and had been living there for a few months when he had passed away.
Tara Norton, 27. Tara was a client at St. Joseph's Emergency Shelter and was well known in our community. She had recently gotten into housing. Unfortunately, Tara died in a car accident on May 7th.
James Patton, 41. James, also known as Tuffy, was murdered on July 21st.
Dennis Reamer. Dennis died this March.
Linda Reisinger, 63. Linda had a very strong relationship with God. She liked to preach the gospel and give out Bibles. She was very sweet, and she had recently gotten into housing at Unity Place and was able to connect with her sister and brother-in-law. Linda had strong family support.
Brandon Shields. Brandon passed away this June.
Thomas James Tucker, 56. Known by his friends as Tommy, he got into an apartment a little over a month ago. He was a hard-working individual and well-liked around Des Moines. He was generous with his time and liked to volunteer for the most difficult jobs. Tommy was first to volunteer when anyone needed help. He had a good sense of humor and got along really well with others. He had the most beautiful blue eyes. Tommy was found dead in his new home last week on December 15th. He was allegedly beaten to death, and his death is under investigation. He is survived by his mother, Lil Heritage, sister, Linda Carver, and brother Sean Heritage, as well as his 5 children, Amanda, Brandon, Natasha, Anthony, and Nicole.
Yep. Tyrese Washington, 6 months. Tyrese was born last year on December 15th and died just 3 days before he was going to turn 6 months old. He had stayed with his mother at St. Joseph's Emergency Family Shelter and New Direction Shelter earlier this year. His father then left him in a hot car, and he died at Broadlawns from overheating and heat exhaustion. Baby Tyrese was happy, smiling, and outgoing no matter what. He was loved by everybody who encountered him.
Bill Whitehead, 50. Bill had a great sense of humor and was always helping people. He was one of the first Joppa volunteers and came out faithfully every week to help others. Even while he was still struggling himself, Bill loved stuffed monkeys and had an extensive collection. He had gotten off the streets and became an in-home caregiver for Vaughn, another one of our friends who had met while camping along the Des Moines River. Bill died unexpectedly while sleeping on July 15th. He is survived by his 2 sons, Eric and Greg.
Tommy Williams, 56. Tommy was a quiet man and kept to himself. He was very patient and was kind to others. He got along with everyone and had beautiful handwriting. Tommy died while he was a guest at Central Iowa Shelter on February 5th.
Marco loved his husky dog. He lived along Floor and died of exposure. That's all anyone knows about Marco and his homeless life.
We just learned a few moments ago that we lost our friend Jenny Doty, who died last night from cancer. Jenny was close to her dad and worked with him at his business. She also recently appeared in a Joppa video, and she shared her story about what it was like to be beaten and raped while homeless. Jenny passed away last night. Thank you.
Caleb Stevens.
Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
From Eternity Church, please welcome Pastor Jed Spira.
Will you please join me in a moment of silence as we remember those who have passed this year? Lord God, in your word, in 1 John chapter 2, it says, for anyone who claims to live in Jesus, or who claims to abide in him, who claims to have relationship with him, must walk as Jesus walked. Indeed, must live as he lived. And we know through stories, Lord, that we read about you, Jesus, in the Gospels, that when you came in contact with people, that you didn't look past them, you didn't look around them, you didn't look through them, you didn't look down on them, Lord Jesus, but that you stopped what you were doing and then you saw them and you spent time with them. And we read in these words in 1 John, Lord, that we are called to walk as you walked, that we are called to live as you lived. And so, Lord, I pray as a community for all of us, Lord, that we would find conviction in these words, but not just conviction, Lord, that we would find empowerment in these words and inspiration to walk as you walked, Jesus, because we know that when people came in contact with you, Lord, that they came away from that interaction with you knowing that they were seen and that their lives were never the same. Lord, so I pray for our community, God. I pray for tiny home communities, Father, in this community, Lord, that they would not just take root, God, but that they would thrive. Lord, your plan is restoration, and the way that you work is to set things back in their rightful places they should be. And so I pray that these tiny home communities be places where that takes place. Lord, and I pray for our leaders in our community, in our city, in our state, that they would be emboldened, Father, by 1 John in chapter 2, starting in verse 6, that they would be emboldened, that faith would well up within them, that they would be emboldened to walk as you walked, and that they would be emboldened to make decisions out of conviction to walk, Jesus, as you walked. I pray these things in your precious name, Jesus. Amen.
From Plymouth Church, Jane Heminger.
I am here as the chair of the homeless assistance team at Plymouth Church, as a member of the Des Moines community, and as someone lucky enough to live a safe and comfortable life, to ask that we come together to do better for those less fortunate. During my time helping homeless, I have seen actions that have become solutions. Evictions, removal of property and destruction, and arrests for trespassing are just actions, not solutions. The shelters can only offer temporary assistance for people to have a limited length of stay, so we need other answers. Joe Stevens and the wonderful people of Java offer such an answer, and that comes with ancillary benefits. By creating a tiny home village, not only do people move off the streets, but we provide both them and our community with safety and pride. The village also offers the services to help people transition to a better life of employment, community engagement, and responsibility and support. Approaching a challenge with dignity and respect gives everyone the best chance to succeed. This has worked beautifully in other communities across the country, and Des Moines shows itself to be progressive and innovative, and is at the right time to make this work. There is huge church and community support for this, and the time is right. As I turn things over to Joe Stevens, I leave you with a prayer from Plymouth that fits both the season and this evening. I will need light for this.
There's a book light on there. Turn that on.
Eternally gracious God, through your love, you are always seeking us. Our soul are restless until they find the rest in you. Deliver us from serving illusions that leave us empty. Open our hearts to receive the true gifts of Christmas. Christ came in humility. Forgive our foolish pride. Christ came in obscurity. Forgive our craving for recognition. Christ came in poverty. Forgive our endless pursuit of wealth. Christ came through the mystery of your love. Forgive our frantic search for certainty and control. Come to us and renew us in hope, peace, joy, and love. Amen.
Joe Stevens.
Hi, everybody. So most of you know that JAPA helps homeless people survive, get housing, and rebuild their lives. And our mission is to create a community of unconditional love, support, and hope for the homeless as we work together to end homelessness. And it's that last part of our mission that I want to spend a little bit of time talking to you about this evening. And that's about how do we end homelessness. We have a plan, a community plan that's come together. Lots of people have been involved in creating it here in the community, and we have a plan to help end homelessness here through tiny home villages. So how this all started was 3.5 years ago. Our city manager at the time, Rick Clark, actually challenged me to come up with fundamental solutions to homelessness. We help people survive, but what are some fundamental solutions? And we all know there's a lack of affordable housing here in Des Moines, and we also know that the homeless evictions don't solve anything. So what is a solution? And what happened was we went back to the Street Outreach Coalition, and we spent about 2.5 years studying this. And we tried to study the problem. We thought we knew what it was, but we wanted to study it further and document it. We wanted to talk to homeless people and find out what's going on in their lives. What do they think? What do they think would work for them? We wanted to go out and look around the country in North America to find out what is working in other places. What could we emulate that might work here? And what we discovered are tiny home villages. And tiny home villages are happening all across the country. There were 25 of them in operation, one for even 15 years when we started researching this a few years ago. And tiny home villages are working. They're all very different, but they're all working, and they're working because they're providing solutions. And so it's kind of a three-legged stool. It's the tiny home itself, and people get excited when you talk about tiny homes. They're inexpensive to build. People can build them. Norwalk High School built the shell of this home right here in their STEM class. We have 5 or 6 other high schools that want to build tiny homes in their classes. We have Prison Industries that wants to build them. We have home builders that want to build them. We have boys clubs that want, or kids clubs that want to build them, like Boy Scouts. And we've got volunteers that want to build them and come together. So it's an exciting form of housing. Secondly, it takes programs and services that actually help people overcome their homelessness, and that includes job development and jobs training and staffing, and helping people get a source of income. And so without the programs and services, it's going to be difficult for anybody. Housing alone doesn't do it. And then the third final leg is the community, that sense of community of everybody working together in an upward spiral, watching each other's backs and helping each other move forward in a positive way. So we've got a solution on the table, and it's really a threefold solution. I'm going to cover it briefly. It starts with really just providing a safe place to go. People cannot stay at shelters year-round. There are shelter stay limits. When they time out, we don't need more buildings or more expensive shelters. We don't need to build anymore. We have very good shelters already. What we need is to provide a stop measure and a stopgap and an overflow pressure release valve, if you will, and provide a place for people to go when they can't stay at the shelters, when they have nowhere else to go, or when we go and we evict them from under a bridge. We can say, well, you can't be here, but you can go over there. And so a safe, sanitary, secure place to go is the first thing we need. And, you know, I hear some people say, well, you know, how come homeless people are so messy? And we all know, or some of us know, that all of us are messy, but most homeless people want to keep their environments clean. But if you can imagine in your home, pretend you don't have a car, and let's say that the trash service is no longer coming, what are you going to do? So we'll give you garbage bags, but you're going to have to find a place to take your garbage. And after just a few weeks, you're probably going to find that walking several blocks after they lock that dumpster to another dumpster and then to another dumpster, eventually you're just going to give up. So we're surrounded by our trash because we have no trash pickup, and we're surrounded because we have no waste removal, and it's just not a healthy environment. We need a safe, sanitary, secure place for people to go. It's a very easy solution. It could simply be a campground, an approved campground. The second solution is a transitional village, and that's what we're talking about with the tiny home here. A transitional village is a place you go for 6 to 24 months to gain a source of income and overcome your other barriers to housing. And then you move on to permanent housing. So when you look at this home here, and I hope you all get a chance to tour it, we'll stay around afterwards till everyone's gone. We'll be happy to answer your questions. This home is 96 square feet. If you've been in it or when you go in it, I think you'll see that it's feels quite large and roomy for that amount of 8 by 12 space. But again, this is no plumbing. This is a place you go for 6 to 24 months. It's like summer camp. You're going to get the help you need. You're going to overcome your homelessness, and you're going to move into a permanent supportive environment. And that could be a regular apartment, or it could be a permanent tiny home that would rent, as we said earlier, for $400 or less per month. So imagine a 150 square foot home with full plumbing that you could live in for less than $400 a month. That's the kind of solution that we need here in central Iowa to help end homelessness. So we'll build all those kinds of homes. It's a community environment. You guys can all get involved. There's a lot that we can do there. I can't read my notes, but I can tell you that there are a lot of ways to get involved, and people always ask how they can get involved. Certainly, we would encourage you to visit with your city and county officials, and all of their names and contact information are on our website at joppa.org. So we'd love it if you would let them know that you think this is a good solution. We'd love it if you'd educate yourselves and look into it further, because what you'll find is that these villages around the country are really solving a problem that's not otherwise being solved, and they're filling a gap, and they're actually raising property values. There aren't issues with security, and some of the sort of things you might wonder about as a property owner or a business owner, those things don't materialize. So as you look into them further, you'll find that you'll become more convicted about the solution. It really is the answer. And people that are traveling across the country, in fact, Stephen Court came up to me the other day. He's the CEO of the Youth Emergency Shelter here in town, Yes. And Steve said, I travel across the country, and this is the solution. We're seeing it everywhere we go, and you're on it. And so it's happening. And we can do this here in our community without ongoing government support. And that's another way you can get involved. You can donate now, you can give, and that helps us meet needs every day, helps us help people survive this winter with heater systems and fuel. It helps us carry on with development of the home. Or you can also pledge towards future homes. So a tiny home, this home right here costs $5,000 of materials and $1,500 of fixtures and furnishing. So $6,500 total. People can raise money in their small groups, in their clubs, in their churches, in their workplaces. People can come together. We can build these. We don't need ongoing government funding to do this. There's enough places for that government funding to go, and thank goodness for that, because there's a lot of programs in town that depend on it, and we depend on those programs, because otherwise it'd be all unmet needs and all gaps. So pledging, you can pledge towards that, and there's information that you can get over on Buy the Tiny Home. If you haven't picked up one of these already, got it here, right here. If you haven't picked up one of these already, it's got information about the 3-prong plan, a lot more than I'll be able to cover tonight, as well as information about how you can get involved and help. And I would also say that you can join a tiny home village team. We are looking for leaders, co-leaders, and team members, and we have a number of teams. We are, of course, involved in land acquisition right now, so if any of you might be able to help us with that, we would appreciate that. We're involved in community relations and have a community relations team to help neighborhood associations understand this. And in fact, if you're in a neighborhood association, please visit with them. This is something that could lift your neighborhood up, that could provide a place for all the people that are already in your neighborhood that are homeless, a place for them to go and get the help they need. We have a village operations board team, and you can get involved in that, all about the application and onboarding. The village will have, people ask about this all the time, will have 24-hour security. It has a village council. The folks that are in the village will manage themselves. That's how all these villages work and are successful. But we will have an on-site resident manager that lives there, that's paid staff, and then there will be 24-hour security around the village. So by taking the best of all the operations manuals across the country, we've been able to assemble an operations manual that we think is pretty seasoned for having not started yet. And we invite your participation in that. Cut holes in it, let us know what we need to add. We are looking for feedback. We want to make that even better than it already is. We have a village build team. We're looking for people that can help us build and manage people to build and manage other organizations. We have a governance and partnership team. If you're into governance, this would be your team. We have a land and village advisory council. If you think you can help us as an advisor, we would like to visit with you about that. I'm excited to tell you that it's very difficult to raise money. That's not the part I'm excited about. It's difficult to raise money for a tiny home village when you can't tell people where it's going to be. The difficulty has been getting the land. The land has to do with not in my backyard. People think, well, this is a great idea, but not in my backyard. And that's the wrong, if you really look into this, and you even study, like we have a video on our website of the village in Madison, Wisconsin. And we've interviewed the folks that are in the business right next door, the folks that live across the street that fought it, tooth and nail, and they now all believe in it because it works, and they think it's a beautiful thing. And you can see those testimonies on a video on our website. But to date, even without land and without the ability to really do a capital campaign, we've been able to raise $450,000 of the $1 million that it will take to build the first village. Very excited about that, and as soon as we have the land, the rest of the money will come. We've got a number of folks that have said, as soon as you have your land, we're in. So as Gene said, we've got support from churches across the city. We've got support from all of the organizations that provide homeless services here in central Iowa. And we just need now our city officials, our county officials, and our neighborhood associations to invite us in and approve the use of land. It will save, according to the city's numbers, it will save $40,000 per year per homeless person. That's a lot of money. Our first village would have 50 homes that will save taxpayers $2 million every single year. We expect a churn rate of 35%, which is 17 people per year will graduate from the village and move on into permanent housing. So we'll just be continually saving more and more money. It's an exponential kind of thing. So we appreciate everybody's interest and support. We appreciate you being here tonight to remember those that have died homeless. And we welcome your help in making tiny home villages a reality in central Iowa. Thank you.
Once again, glitter and rust.
If you have a candle, let's raise our candles tonight. And if you know the chorus of this song, join us, please.
Some brightly burning, some dark and cold. There is a spirit who brings a fire, ignites a candle, and makes his home. So carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle
Jackie Stevens.
In closing, I'd like to thank our event chairs, Kelly Overby and Carrie Schulte, and everyone else who has worked so hard to make this event special tonight. This includes our special speakers, Stonebridge Sound, Majestic Limo, Edgy Production, and the Joppa Kids, as well as members of the Street Outreach Coalition that have contributed to the research and plans for the tiny home villages in central Iowa. Also, thank you to Hope Ministries and Central Iowa Shelter for helping us gather the names of the deceased. And you're welcome to keep your candles as a memento of tonight's memorial, or you can place them right here on the stage if you'd like to after the service is over. And to all of our homeless and recently homeless friends, and even those that serve homeless people, please join us right after the event here for entertainment, some really good food, and some gifts at the Homeless Christmas Celebration at the Walnut Creek Downtown Church, which is at 323 Locust. And I hear we are having a full-blown Christmas meal with all the fixins, turkey, dressing, mashed potatoes, and over 100 home-baked pies. So it should be pretty good. So if you guys rode on the bus, or if you rode with a particular person, go back with that person or the bus, and we'll take you to the downtown church.
I walked to my apartment.
And then we'll also be returned home later. So again, thank you so much to everybody for participating in the 2016 Iowa Homeless Memorial Rally. Merry Christmas to everyone and happy holidays. Thank you.
Yeah, here, they come on around. Let's get around the camera there.
That will do it for this event. I'm going to go collect.
If you haven't had a
lights
chance to
from
tour the
stage.
tiny home, please feel free to check it out.
So I'll go ahead and take my stream down. And so thanks for watching. And again, if you can, in your local area, find out.
I just wanted to say hi to you.
Hello.